Welcome to the Rinkside Rundown podcast, your ultimate destination for all things women's hockey with your host, Chris Sinclair, a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network. Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today I'm joined by Sally Hoerr, a graduate of Grand Valley University as well as Liberty University and current member of Linköping HC of the SDHL. Sally, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Chris. Thank you for welcoming me. Oh my goodness. Super excited to be here. I love talking about hockey and everything to do with that. So ready to go.
Awesome. Well, the great news is we get to talk about hockey, but we get to talk a lot about you. And I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I love talking about me. Just kidding.
It's great. I'm glad I'm on this side of the questions, not on the other side. That's what I'll say. I feel like, a great starting point is, hearing this is how I got into hockey, or this is what made me fall in love with hockey. That story is always so fascinating. So let's kick it off right there. What was it about hockey that you loved so much?
Well, my dad got my brother and I into it when we were really young. We played a ton of sports, though. They just wanted us to try whatever we could, see what stuck. But he was the one that was obsessed, and we watched it every night. So eventually that sort of took over all the other sports and ended up just sort of going all in to hockey. For a long time, though, it was interesting. I wouldn't say it was necessarily like a passion at the time. Like when I was a kid, I think it was like, I absolutely loved it, but I think it was just something I did, just as a kid. It was like my extracurricular activity. And then it wasn't until, trying to get into a school. And then when my career was almost over in college, that I was really like, oh, this is something that I'm like insanely passionate about and not ready to give up. Like I didn't realize how important it was to me until it was almost over. So I'm glad I figured it out before that happened. But I was definitely a late starter, so to speak, in that sense.
So what were you'd mentioned that your dad had wanted you to get into a bunch of different, or tried to get you into a bunch of different sports. What were some of those other sports, and were there other sports that were like a close second to your passion for hockey?
Yeah, I did a ton. I did tennis, swimming, soccer. I tried lacrosse for one season, but I hated that. I did other non-sports things. I did theater. I did dance for a while, gymnastics. Like I said, they really just wanted me to try anything we could. And then soccer was a close second for a while. I played that through high school. But I never really put as much time into other sports as I did with hockey. We did all the spring tournaments and summer tournaments there, and then soccer was just another thing on the side. But once that started becoming travel as well, it was like conflicting schedules, and I just preferred playing hockey, so ended up sticking with that one.
So, not to get too far into your career so early in this conversation, but are there ever moments where you kind of wish that you had stuck, in this case, maybe with soccer, or is hockey really where it begins and ends for you?
No, I definitely think hockey was where it begins and ends. I do think wish I had stayed maybe in some other sports a little bit longer than I did. I think that might have helped. Hindsight's 2020 now that I know a little bit more about training and being an athlete. I used to make fun of sports like figure skating and gymnastics when I was a kid because it was like, oh, girl sport. But then, I started watching them in the Olympics, and I have so much respect for those athletes now. And I think the things they do in gymnastics is insanely beneficial for athletes in general. So I kind of wish I had stayed with something like that for a little bit longer. It was definitely hockey the whole way.
Fair. And so you had mentioned how much or how important it was for your dad to get you into as many different sports as possible. But does that mean that sports in general was something that was big in your family?
Yeah, it was both my mom and my dad really wanted us to do as many extracurricular activities as we could. There was a lot of stuff being offered, and I think they also just wanted us to be hanging out with kids our age and, being social and just being busy. And, obviously I'm not a parent yet, but knowing how busy I am now without kids, the amount of time that they had to give up to split up between my brother and I, because he was also playing lacrosse and football and hockey and all this stuff. So the amount of time and sacrifice that they put into getting us to all of these things, like sometimes I feel like part of the reason I went this far is to sort of, they gave all that to me for so long that, this is sort of my way of, one way of like saying thank you to that. Like, how far can I go now that they gave me such a good start? So
yeah, and it's interesting because you don't necessarily, when you're a kid or when you're growing up, you don't necessarily realize how much of a sacrifice it is. You're sitting there like, oh, I don't want to go to practice. But your parents are like, you're going to practice because I had to get off work early in order to get you there, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember we'd still have to map quest directions. And I remember one time my brother and my jerseys got swapped. So I had a really big jersey. He had a really small jersey. I mean, just the planning that would go into all of this, I can't even imagine. Like you said, plus on top of working full time, like I can't even think about all the driving that we had to do. But that's probably one thing though that really, we were split up a lot going to sports, but I think it also really brought us together as a family because, you're in the car a lot. And they were really good about not pushing us too hard, like that after game car ride that sort of has a stigma. Like that was never a thing for us. And it was always a good time, get some Subway or some nice treat after. So it was always a good time for us.
Nice. MapQuest, a nice little shout out there. That's a blast from the past for sure.
Yeah, and I do not. That was the one part of the car ride I actually didn't enjoy getting there because I had to be the one reading the directions. And, if you missed a turn or they marked it wrong, I mean, you were never getting to that soccer field. So.
Yeah, not a lot of people realize what it was like to actually have to follow a physical path rather than something that was constantly just tracking you. You had to think ahead as to where the next, okay, we're 3 streets away, got to turn right, and then we got to immediately turn left. Like you're constantly on, right?
Yeah, and I'll never forget, when it would say turn left and then you had to bear right or something really quick. And, I'm just a kid trying to get to the game and I don't really know the roads anyway. And I don't miss the days of not having a GPS.
Yeah, having to print out your map.
Yeah.
So you are a defender. What got you, what drew you to that position over any of the others?
I don't remember what age group I was, probably still U12 maybe, around there. But I was actually a forward for most of the time, usually center. So I kind of did have that sort of defensive side of me from the start. But a lot of times we would switch up positions. Like our coaches would just ask if anyone wanted to switch. And so me and my friend on that team, or my friend and I, we would like to go back and play defense together. And then I don't know why, but I ended up just preferring that. And I think I joked that I liked playing D because when you're in the offensive zone, you got a break because you could stand at the blue line and you don't have to work as hard, which is not true if you can't break it out of your zone. But I think I ended up just staying back there at some point. I don't know why or how, but I love it. So.
All right. Well, this is a perfect segue into the part of the show in which I recognize it can be a little bit uncomfortable for a player because we're going to actually celebrate and highlight your career. This is my favorite part of the show for sure. But your collegiate career spans 134 games split between Grand Valley State and Liberty University, which also includes a total of 11 playoff games. During your time in college, you had amassed 51 total points between the regular season and the playoffs. Something, though, that I noticed was that during your time in college, and even right now, you only ever had 2 seasons in which you had more than 2 penalty minutes. And that also includes the playoffs. So that's regular season and the playoffs. So there were only 2 instances during your entire career where your penalty minutes have been more than 2. And by that, I mean, I think there was one season where it was like 4 and one season it was 6. So it's like, it's still so limited, and that's incredible. And so before we get into your experiences in college, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, like, is the discipline side of your game, is that something that you've been really focused on, or is that just something you're just naturally gifted at?
That's so funny. I was not expecting that at all. Well, for the beginning of my career, funny story there is I have such an incredible memory of when I was still playing youth hockey, and I was playing in at the University of Vermont's rink, Gutterson Fieldhouse, which for anyone that's played there in college is a much bigger rink than most other college rinks. So as a little kid, it's huge to play on, and I got a tripping penalty. And penalty box was on the other side of the rink, so I had to skate all the way over there. I was so embarrassed because I was such a rule follower when I was a kid, so I didn't like that I was getting a timeout basically for breaking the rules, and I was like crying. I was not having a good time. And then when I skated all the way back to the bench after the penalty, my brother was on the bench there for some reason. I think maybe he was helping coach that day, and he was like making fun of me. He was teasing me about it, and I hated being in the penalty box so much. So I think through my youth, I did anything I could to avoid not getting a penalty, because I felt horrible, and then I felt bad, like I was letting everybody down being in the penalty box. So really tried not to get any penalties. And then as I got older and started learning more about the game and watching a lot of hockey, it's such a big pet peeve of mine now when like stupid penalties happen. Like that is my least favorite thing that happens in a game. Like if you get beat and you make a lazy tripping, or you follow through with your hands. I mean, emotions get high, I understand, but I feel most of the time it's very easy to not do that. So yes, it definitely became much more of a discipline thing for me. I still don't like getting penalties, but I don't have as much of an emotional reaction. But yeah, now, especially now that you've said those stats, it is sort of like a secret pride thing that I have. I really try not to get a lot of penalty minutes.
Well, yeah, and I brought it up because I thought it was incredible. I don't think I've ever seen someone's career be so limited when it comes to penalty minutes. And I love that the inspiration really started when you were younger, and you're like, that was the most embarrassing thing. I cried and I was so upset about it. You know what? Inspiration takes many different forms.
Yep. And luckily it was an inspiration that I think is very beneficial to my team in the long run. I think there are sometimes I could be a little bit more aggressive in front of my own net, but if I can keep my team off the penalty kill, then I think I did my job that day.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's a great win-win for everyone involved. That's what they call that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
So speaking of your collegiate career, I always like to know what went into the process in selecting first with Grand Valley State, and then you moved on to Liberty.
Yeah, so the Grand Valley State decision came from, like I said, my parents didn't really push sport, like pursuing college, or there wasn't really a pro scene, and I was from Vermont, so Olympics, weren't super in the question for me unless you were on that track from the beginning. So I just never really thought about it too much until it was time to pick a school, and I was like, I got to keep playing hockey because that's just what I do. That's just how life works, right? But then, I wasn't getting D1 offers out the window or anything, so I didn't even know club existed until there was a showcase happening near the school that I was playing at the time in Rhode Island. And we went and watched the games, and I was like, oh, this level looks like something I could do. Like, let's check it out. They had a little meeting afterwards with a bunch of teams that were there. And they sort of explained what club was. And at the time, I was really interested in film and like going into the movie industry. And it was really difficult to find schools that had high level hockey and a good arts program. Very difficult combination. but a lot of club teams had good film, and the level, like I said, was better than I was expecting. So I went through the schools that were there, and they just happened to, Grand Valley just happened to be there and had film in their brochure of majors. And then looked at a few other schools, but their coach kept reaching out to me and ended up really liking the school. So ended up committing to Grand Valley for that reason, mostly to focus on school and do hockey, figuring I had a career that I needed to think about at that time after 4 years. And then as things were winding down, I was debating my 5th year, what I wanted to do. And things had just sort of changed. We had a new coach come in, and for me, like I said, I started realizing that my passion for hockey was greater than I had ever imagined. And at club, you have a lot of teams that are, like at Liberty, we practice 4 times a week. Like you're not there to play hockey, but it's very much more focused on the sport. Whereas like other schools, it's like much more academic focused, which is what club is for, right? It's like you to find that balance. And for me, I really wanted to experience what it would be like to be a hockey player first. Because I figured once school was over, I wouldn't be able to ever have that feeling, since I didn't go NCAA or anything. And Liberty could provide me with that opportunity. So I figured I'd reach out, see if they want to take someone for 1 year. And they said they would love to have me. And I ended up transferring, and worked out pretty well for me in the end. So, but I loved both schools. One gave me the opportunity to play college hockey and get a really good academic career out of that. And then one school really let me be an athlete. Of course, I had a great education there as well, but best of both worlds, I think.
Of course, yeah. And you kind of dropped a little nugget there in wanting to be in movies and stuff. Was that in front of the camera, behind the camera? Where would that have been?
Behind the camera. I was really interested in the process of making a movie at that point. Wasn't sure exactly where, but I really liked the business side of it, the planning, the organizing, more like management side of things. And like every group project we did, I liked being sort of the scheduler and keeping everything tight on a budget, all that fun part of making a movie,
Well, someone's got to do it, and it's better when they're passionate about it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Tell us more about your experiences in both Grand Valley and Liberty.
It was really great, and I'm very proud that I went through the club route. The one thing that I had at Grand Valley that I didn't have at Liberty, but again, it was not the same on purpose. So at Grand Valley, like I said, it was much more club focused. So we had students doing a lot of the administrative tasks. So we had, a president, vice president, treasurer, fundraising person. So we were a lot more active in running the whole thing. Like my last year, I was even helping with planning the schedule, organizing the buses. I went to Chicago and maybe tried to recruit a couple players. So I got to do a lot of management on the team side, which was another draw for club as well. Because at the time, since I wasn't getting a lot of D1 offers, like I didn't think I was that good. So I didn't want to go to a school and just like ride the bench for 4 years. Like that would be boring. So I was like, I can go somewhere, play and be a part of the team. Like that's exactly what I want. So I got a lot of really good experience out of that. And like I said, the level was a lot better than I was expecting. When you hear club, it still has that stigma. But it was great then, and it just keeps getting better. So got that out of Grand Valley. And then Liberty, like I said, really gave me that opportunity to sort of live life as an athlete. And since I came in as a grad student, I was off campus and I was working as a graduate assistant. So had a job at the rink with the alumni office, but all my classes were online. So I was working, and then I was going to the gym and then practice and then our game. So I really got to mostly focus on the athletic side. And we had amazing facilities there. The locker room was beautiful. We had a little shooting booth. So all the things that, you can, obviously we weren't getting like 100 sticks and all that stuff that you can get, at NCAA level, but and I think it's pretty well known in the club hockey community, like they really treat their program like it's an NCAA program. And the coaches were excellent. And it was the strength and conditioning coach that I spent a lot of time with, because if you wanted to get better and like you had things that you wanted to get better at, like he would give you the time, right? Like if you showed up for him, he would show up for you and he would help you get better. So if you ever run into anyone like that in your career that's willing to give you the time if you want it, like take it, like if you're given those resources, don't be afraid. Like that's what they're there for. So it was really cool to experience that kind of atmosphere for sure.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by Durant Barristers. Durant Barristers is a proud supporter of women's sports and is an inaugural sponsor of the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Durant Barristers provides legal services for athletes, coaches, officials, administrators, and sports associations of all sizes, from minor associations to national sports organizations and professional sports environments. We routinely assist with safe sport complaints, investigations, anti-doping, harassment, discrimination, abuse, and governance matters. We also provide representation on general civil litigation matters, including employment and business disputes of all sizes. Durant Barristers founder Aaron Durant also provides mediation and arbitration services to assist in managing disputes in a timely and affordable manner. Durant Barristers has generously offered their best ever discount to fans and supporters of women's hockey. Mention the Rinkside Rundown podcast to, wait for it, receive 15% off all your accounts with Durant Barristers for the duration of your relationship with the firm. To learn more about Durant Barristers, visit www.durantbarristers.com. That's www.durantbarristers.com. Thank you to Durant Barristers for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. If you could do it all over again, and you could do, Division I, or you could go to club, which do you think you would choose?
I think now that I'm so far into my career, I wouldn't change, I think, and a lot of people say this in retrospect, like I wouldn't change how it went because it's how I got to where I am now. And one thing that I think really helped me from going through the club route is I just never take anything for granted. Not saying that people that go to NCAA do that, but, we weren't like at Grand Valley, we had to pay $1,500 to play. We weren't given scholarships. We had like one t-shirt that we got for all 4 years, right? We weren't given a lot of things. So I don't really expect to get those things when I go to new teams. And then if I get something, I'm so excited for that thing. Like when I went to Liberty, we got a ton of apparel there. And I just remember getting the first batch of stuff and I took pictures of everything. I sent it to my parents. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get all this stuff. I was so excited. And then this team, we get like little food boxes, and every week I get so excited for this little free meal that I get every week. Like, so I think that sort of helped me become who I am today. But of course, it would have been really cool to say that I went NCAA D1 and played in that level. But I don't think I would change it for how I got here now. So,
well, and this ended up being a perfect segue, because I wanted to know more about how you feel as though your time at Grand Valley and Liberty helped to shape your career, both on and off the ice. You kind of alluded to some of it, but I'd love for you to expand on it.
I think it wasn't until my last year at Liberty, actually, that I really took advantage of all the resources that I had. And I decided that I was going to go to a free agent, what what do they call it? Yeah, free agency, the open tryouts that they had for the PHF back when that was a thing. I had an invite, so I was like, might as well just try it, see what happens. You know, the worst happens is you don't make it. But there wasn't really a lot of resources for that at Grand Valley. Like, we didn't really have a strength conditioning coach. We would go work out at the gym if we wanted to. At that time, I actually hated training off the ice because we ran a lot and I hated running. I didn't understand how it translated to on-ice performance at all because no one told me. So I just was like, you know, you are what you are. And then if you're bad at hockey or you're good at this one thing in hockey, that's just like how you are for your whole life. And then my last year at Grand Valley, I remember being really mad that I couldn't like push these bigger girls out of the way. So I was like, oh, maybe I need to get a little bit stronger. Tried doing stuff myself. Not sure how much that helped. And then when I went to Liberty and I had all the resources of the gym for the team, you know, strength conditioning coach that was there for us, like then I really understood how it all sort of came together. And that's when I really got the passion because it was all sort of coming together at the same time. The coaching, the video, like I really didn't know that much about hockey until I transferred, I think. And then I just became obsessed after that. So I think realizing it as I was growing up, sort of with that more adult mind, I think that I really understood how much I needed to really invest in things and not just go through the motions. So like I started pretty late in my career for people who are professionals now. But I was able to be really intentional about everything that I did because I asked why for almost anything. I was like, why are we doing this exercise? Why do I need to eat this food? Why am I doing it now? So I got a whole bunch of information in, you know, like a year and a half. And I still do that now. You know, I'm always asking why, what can I do better? Like there's always 1% that you can get better like every day. And I always try to find that. So.
Ooh, good answer. How would you, shifting gears a little bit more specifically to your actual game, how would you describe your style of play?
I would say right now I like to be a supporter. I don't have the raw talent to be like that flashy offensive player or anything. But I always like being someone that people can rely on defensively. Like they know they can go up or like maybe make a riskier play because I'll be there erring a little bit more cautiously on the defensive side. I am trying to get a little bit more offensive since that's sort of the way the game is going. And I'm learning to adapt to that sort of positionless style of hockey, which this team is all for. So it's been a good place for me to sort of work on that. But I like making nice passes and setting up my teammates. So I'd go that way.
Fair. Who were some of your biggest mentors and supporters throughout your career, including as of right now as well?
Mentors and supporters, my parents for sure. Like I just told you right before this, I was calling them right before I hopped on this call. So they've been with me every step of the way, always supporting, you know, that I wanted to keep going, you know, rather than giving it up and looking for a job. So they've helped me. They're taking care of my cat right now. So I appreciate them for that. And then other than that, like I said, my strength conditioning coach, Chris Hoerr at Liberty University is just hands down the best person that I've ever met in the hockey world. Just the amount that he wants to improve and what he wants to do and learn so that he could help us. Like, I think his enthusiasm for learning and improvement and being the best really inspired me to just give it my all. And like I said, he was always willing to answer any question that I had, and we would work on a lot of things outside of our team practices. So I think he and my parents were really the ones that sort of got me on this trajectory for sure.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their health and diets so they can perform their best on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, the Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is opening soon. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, get on the waitlist today. Learn more and sign up at melissabufunos.com/course. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com/course. Thank you to Melissa Bufunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. You had mentioned earlier about the PHF. You had a chance to play with the Montreal Force of the PHF. What was that experience like, and what was it like playing in Canada for the first time?
Oh man, that experience was absolutely insane. I mean, first of all, it was super last minute. Obviously, the team got announced pretty late anyway, and then I was called up like 2 weeks before things were supposed to get started. So it was like I had to pack up in 2 weeks and get up to Canada. They were really good about getting the visa and everything set to go. But that was a wild start. But just the fact that I even had that opportunity coming from a club player was just, I didn't even know what to do with it. I was, obviously a little nervous because most of the players coming in, I remember reading every player that got signed. It was like, this person had their jersey retired here. Like this person won, gold at the World Juniors. I mean, everyone had these crazy, accolades, and, I was just coming from the club level. And so I wasn't really sure exactly why, I was picked. But I figured hopefully it was for some reason. So I just tried to do my best, and it was, I didn't get a ton of games for a while, but just being able to practice and be in that atmosphere, like I said, at Liberty, I really wanted to be an athlete. And even though a lot of people had other jobs, like everyone who was there to be an athlete. So it was really incredible being in a room like that for the first time. So it was great.
Well, congratulations for the time that you got to spend in the PHF. That's absolutely incredible. And as you said, especially for somebody coming from club, typically that may not be the names that a lot of people know or are quite as familiar with. But you made it work and you made it happen. So congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It was I actually wasn't even sure if I was going to try. And then my captain at the time, we were working at a summer camp together, and the person who was running this workshop was having the kids come up with some goals for their life, and then share them. And of course, they're little kids, so they don't want to share anything out loud. And then my captain decided to say that out loud that she wanted to play professional hockey. And at the time the PHF existed, and I was like, oh, maybe that would be cool, but I don't know if I don't even know how close I am to that level. But she had the guts to say it out loud, and she ended up following a non-hockey career after she graduated. But the fact that she was willing to say it out loud, like that is what really inspired me to believe in myself and go. So sometimes you just got to hear it,
This is great. You keep setting me up with perfect segues, so I appreciate that. I want to now talk, and I know that it may be a little bit bittersweet for you, but I would love to talk a little bit about the PWHL. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think the segue here was that there's, you're seeing such an incredible reception to the league, to the players. Games are sold out. I think they just announced that the Battle on Bay Street is now going to be a sellout, and that's at Scotiabank Arena. So that's 18,700 or something like that. I think they just it's a sellout there. So another sellout, especially in a larger barn. I want to know, maybe this is a silly question, but are you at all surprised at the reception of women's hockey, especially as someone who's been around the sport for so many years?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised now. I mean, I didn't get to play in the game, but I got to skate out for that Montreal home opener for the PHF, which had an insane, I mean, for me, an insane crowd. So even just getting to be a part of that was something I'll never forget. But I do think the momentum has really carried the league's attendance record, and they just keep getting different and bigger arenas, and they're just selling out every time. And like, I'm blown away by how well they're able to fill the stands, and just hearing the crowd in the background on the screen recording is just something that we just haven't seen before. And I just hope that it's something new, and so obviously novelty is something that is very helpful for marketing. So I'm just hoping that they take this momentum and they can run with it through playoffs, and then keep it going into the off season, into the next season, and really make it last.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think right now it's incredibly, it's the games have all been great. Whether you're watching it live or you're watching it on the broadcast, they've all been incredible. But I'll be interested to see, to your point, how they sustain that momentum, especially in the off season when there aren't games. Like, what are some of those things that they're going to be doing? They've been really creative, so I imagine that they're going to come up with something. But yeah, I'm also equally as interested to see how they carry on that momentum. What do you think, or how do you think now, with there being a pro league that at least early on seems to be very sustainable, managed well, has the right people in place, how do you think this will help to grow the women's game?
I think, well, like I said, if it wasn't for my captain saying it out loud, I wouldn't have thought that it was okay to, follow that dream and try to be a professional athlete. So I know it's been sort of a cliche thing, these past few months, the sort of seeing is believing thing. And I do think a lot of the marketing needs to go broader. I think maybe we're focusing on that like a little bit too much. And we need to sort of capture this wider audience. The parents need to get involved, their friends need to get involved, things like that. Because I can guarantee you the next generation is already hyped and ready to go. So we need to make sure that other people are just as interested to support it, and want to keep it alive so that generation has somewhere to go in the future.
Yeah, and I definitely think it appears as though if you've seen any of the games, you'll see signs with, young girls with signs saying like, now I can play hockey professionally, or, however they've worded it. But so they've definitely captured the future generations. But to your point, how do they kind of bridge that gap between those two? Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
So I have to ask then, this begs the question. You're in Sweden right now. Would you ever consider the PWHL as maybe a next career stop for you?
Maybe. I mean, for a while I was really interested in maybe seeing how something in the PHF would go if I didn't play, because like I said, I really believed in, I love women's hockey. So of course, you believe in it and you want people to be able to play the sport that they love. So now that there's so many more teams and hopefully more on the way, that does open up a lot of opportunities. So, I don't know what would be in store for me afterwards, but that could be an option for sure.
Nice. That's what I like to hear. Just make sure you choose Ottawa. That's what I always tell people. As I had mentioned off the top, and I just mentioned again just a moment ago, you're now playing in Sweden for Linköping of the SDHL, but you also, and I want to give a quick shout out to the Lakers of the EWHL, where you had a stint there as well. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, only 2 penalty minutes. So you continue your discipline play, regardless of where you're playing, regardless of whether it's regular season or not. So once again, big shout out to that discipline play. Thank goodness
Thank
you had that moment of tears early on in your career, and it's paid dividends. This is great. Let's start out with the EWHL, as this was the first time you were playing hockey outside of North America. What went into your decision to continue playing in Europe, and more specifically with these two aforementioned clubs?
Well, at the time, I, of course, was trying to get back into the PHF. I hadn't really been hearing anything, and I knew that my offensive game was lacking. So I'm sure that had a little bit to be part of it. So I was thinking maybe I could go play somewhere in Europe, somewhere that I could develop that, and then, maybe try to get back into the PHF the following season. And then 2 weeks after I signed, the league folded, but I had already committed, so I figured I'd either go to Europe and develop and then continue my career, or I would go to Europe and have a super cool place to finish out my last season, right? Austria is beautiful, so I thought either way it would work out. So decided to continue on with that, and then it ended up taking me to Sweden, another gorgeous part of the country. Well, different country, obviously, but gorgeous part of Sweden. So it's really been taking me all over. And it's been, again, not expected at all, but certainly welcome.
And how do you think, and this can go for both on ice and off ice, but how do you think your time in Europe has helped to shape you? Both, again, as a player, but as also as just a person?
Well, I actually looked into maybe going to Europe right before I transferred to Liberty, maybe taking a gap year. There's not really a lot of information out there on how to do this whole thing. And I'm very afraid of jumping into stuff without sort of knowing, I wanted to be the planner on all the films, so I like to have a plan. And there wasn't a plan, so I just didn't go for it. And I had a little bit more of a plan this time, but now that I was much older, I was like, I just got to do it and figure out some of the things a little bit later. And that was a big lesson that I think I needed to learn in general anyway. But it was good to be in a situation where, it wasn't like, if I do a bad job, I'm going to get fired and lose my house and lose my car, So it's a little bit of a risk-free decision, but of course also just go to an incredible country and have the opportunity to live somewhere other than the States for a period of time in my life and play hockey and do the thing I love and meet new people. So I just figured all around, might as well just go for it. No regrets.
And we'll be right back.
I would like to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
And now, back to the show.
And from what I've heard from every conversation I've been fortunate enough to have with players playing in or are from Europe, it's an absolutely breathtaking part of the world and a place that everyone recommends. Everyone should, at some point in their life, have the opportunity to visit.
Yeah, I first of all, ease of travel once you're actually in Europe is amazing. I don't have a lot of time now that I only have about 2 months here, but where I am, the train station is like 10 minutes away. So if I was here for the whole season, it would be so easy for me to just hop on that train, go to another part of the world. So that's one plus for sure. But a quick shout out to my own personal blog here. I started writing about it because it was something I wanted when I was looking for it a few years ago. Is like, what is it? Like, what do you do? Can you travel? How can you travel? Is it mostly hockey? Like, what is it? So I decided to write that to help maybe other people who are interested. Because like you said, everyone also that I've talked to about it, because I've interviewed a couple of players for that as well, they all say the same thing. Like, you just go for it. I mean, there's so many leagues now. There's Germany League, Switzerland League, Finland has a league. There's so many places you could go. And then, like you said, you're already in Europe. So, I mean, you can go anywhere once you're over here. So, yeah, I'm hoping that as those leagues grow, plus the one in North America, I mean, there's so many more options now globally for players. It's incredible.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss to not follow up and ask you more information on this blog.
Well, it's called Life of an Import. And the Ice Garden was very generous and offered to host that for me. So it's actually on their website. The updating is not very consistent, but I do it about twice a month. Next one's actually probably going to come out this weekend, and I'm going to be talking about some of the rinks that I went to in Sweden so far when I was still waiting to get officially on the roster. I got to watch a couple of the games and see all the really awesome pregame shows they have for the team. So that'll be the next one to look out for.
What's crazy is I happened to, you said you said that the name of the blog, and I immediately was like, I just saw that the other day, and I don't know how or Life of an Import. I don't know how I missed that. Maybe your name wasn't in there, or how because I was looking for more information, and then that's so wild that it was you that I was reading. Yeah, I was reading your words. That was awesome. It was really well done, by the way.
Let's go. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna start winding down now. Mm-hmm. And as it's become a tradition, mostly because I force it upon the players I'm interviewing, we're going to have a fun little game of 20 questions.
All right. Sounds good.
I promise you there's not 20. There's like 8 or something like that. Some are hockey related, some are not. But it's a great opportunity to just have some fun, laugh a little bit, and get to know you a little bit more. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me. All right, let's go.
Perfect. Let's go. I have a feeling I already know the answer to this one because it's usually the same one, but I will ask it anyway. What is your go-to pregame meal?
Go-to pregame meal. I switch between chicken and salmon. I love both. Depends on how much I've already had during the week. If I wasn't very good, then maybe I cut back on the salmon a little bit, but other than that, it's one of those two, and then big plate of pasta, and then a little thing of green beans on the side.
Okay, nice. Pasta, speaking of go-to, pasta seems to be the go-to meal for most hockey players, it would seem.
Yeah, it's a classic. Can't go wrong with some pasta.
Absolutely. I've also been told that you mix Alfredo and pesto sauce. That's what one of my previous guests had shared. I think it was Noemi Nugarova. I think that's how she takes her pasta. Never heard of it before.
Really?
Yeah, never heard of it before, but I'm very close to trying it. I just have to get over the concept of thing, Alfredo sauce with another sauce. But apparently,
right, yeah, that's a lot of sauces. But, pasta's only as good as its sauce, so...
Yeah. You're telling me. Do you have any particular rituals or superstitions on game day?
Not too much. I thought it would be really cool to be one of those people that had a lot of superstitions and rituals, and I always tried every year to come up with something. And then if there was a game where it couldn't happen, I got way too stressed out about it not happening. And then I was like, this just isn't good for me. So I try not to have any, actually, because it just adds too much stress to my mental game. So
Fair. Good answer. Good answer. What have been some of your new favorite traditions that you've discovered during your time in Europe?
Ooh, tradition, like European traditions? Or...
Yeah, European, yeah. I know fika is one that's been brought up a few times, but what are some of yours?
I don't know if it's like as strong of a tradition as fika, but I discovered the huge row of self-serve candy that they have in grocery stores that apparently is a big thing. At least from what I've read, it's like Saturday sweets or something. It used to be like back in the day, they were trying to like cut back on sugar or something. So they would only let people have candy on Saturdays. They'd go and get this big bag of candy, at least from this article I read. I only read one because I was curious, but yeah, it's like you go in and then every grocery store has this huge aisle of just those plastic buckets of candy, and you can just take a scooper and you can get whatever mix match all the candy you want, pay by weight. And they have a lot of different candies. It's great. So I've been trying them all out. I think I've gone through everything already.
Yeah, I would be in trouble if that was the case. I wouldn't be able to hold back at all.
It's very fascinating. My favorite so far is not favorite tasting, but favorite concept is they have a marshmallow candy that looks like a soft serve ice cream cone. I thought that was pretty funny.
Ooh, that's good. So then that begs the question: what is your favorite, or what has been one of your favorites?
Ooh, I don't know if it's like a Swedish thing or like a European thing. I'm not sure, but they have these like fizzy soda candies. They kind of just taste like Sour Patch Kids a little bit. But they have a lot of good chocolates here, like a bunch of different kinds of chocolates with caramel inside and all this stuff. So nothing one in particular that I like, but I'd say those two sort of for now.
Yeah, I would definitely have to make sure I had a solid gym membership if I lived around there, because I would definitely buy my weight in candy for sure.
Yeah, I had to limit myself a little bit. I was going a little overboard, so I had to bring it back down to one or two a day, because I was just so it's perfect for kids. I mean, it's bright and colorful. I mean, I can't believe kids. I don't know how parents prevent their kids from getting all that candy, but
yeah, absolutely. In your downtime, what are some of your favorite things to do just to relax, kick back? What are some of those things?
Right now I'm a big reader. Got back into that after I left school and didn't have to read a bunch of textbooks anymore. So I've been reading anything I can get my hands on. But then other than that, I'm a big rewatch person. I'll rewatch through The Office, Parks and Rec, all those NBC comedies. Love those because they're familiar and I know they're funny, so I don't have to worry about it.
And good shows as well. And what are you currently reading?
Right now I am reading. I just started High Performance Habits. Can't remember the name of the author. I just picked it up, but it's not athletic specific. But I've been seeing that title, so I was curious what the actual habits were. So the Kindle lets you rent library books, so you don't have to pay for them. So there's a lot of books that are on that library app, which are awesome, so I don't have to pay for all these books. But
absolutely, yeah. Underrated, the Kindle.
Yes, that's what I read it. Yeah. Because I had a bunch of books, and then when I moved from Virginia, it was such a pain to have to bring all of these books. I mean, the weight was, incredible. And I think I prefer reading on an actual book, but it's like so impractical right now for how much, it's bad. I'm not really necessarily remembering everything that I'm reading, but, I highlight stuff so I can go back and go through it. But I'm also trying to get through, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow, I think. Very interesting about these two processes in the brain and how they work. Because I'm always trying to see how I can use that information like right now. Maybe something that will help me. Maybe not necessarily one book, but just little tidbits here and there that I pick up on, and whatever edge you can get the next day, I'll take it. So
Nice. Okay. You've alluded to it before, but I want to know if this would be your answer to this question. But if you weren't playing hockey, what career do you think you would have? Would it be in the movies?
It wouldn't be in the movies anymore. If I could be magically good at using a camera, I would love to do the pregame videos, that they do, or like that pregame show that they do in NHL arenas now are just, they blow me away with the graphics on the ice, and they get the whole rink involved. Like, I think those are really, really cool. I'm not that technically savvy. So if I wasn't doing hockey, it would still be in the hockey field, whether that be coaching or I'm getting into strength conditioning, like physical training or sports psychology, any of those, all for it. Love it all. So.
Okay. And lastly, what do you miss most about back home?
Well, I miss my family for sure. They were gracious and let me move back into their house with them while I figure out all this life stuff. So I appreciate them greatly for that. But it's pretty similar in Vermont to the weather we're getting here. So I don't really feel like it's too different from where I was before. I think I miss, I do really enjoy having goldfish after my games. That was like my favorite post-game snack. And I have not been able to find a suitable replacement for that. So I think I would have to say goldfish.
I'd be lying if I told you I was expecting that answer, but it's great.
Yeah, they have some good snacks here, but nothing quite like a good goldfish cracker.
It's true. Yeah, it reminds me of my childhood.
Yes.
Well, Sally, as we wrap up this amazing conversation, I just wanted to again just say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, hang out with me, share your story, and hopefully at least a little bit have a little bit of fun. It's been incredible to have you on, so thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you. It was super fun. Appreciate joining the great cast of players you got on already, and can't wait to see who you're going to bring on next.
Oh, same with me. But yes, thank you once again.
Thank you.
And there you have it for Sally Hoerr. I'm Chris Sinclair, and that's been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.